Morning, everybody. My name's Cecilia. I work for, thank you first of all, Sally, for inviting us to present a challenge. So I work for Sustrans, which is a national charity which is aiming to encourage more people to walk and cycle and use public transport to get to where they need to get to every day. So the challenge that I'm presenting is about walking in the city. It's called Where Do They Walk, or Where Will They Walk? And my focus of my job is about encouraging children and young people to walk more and cycle to school, university and college. So the aim of it is to make it more accessible and more fun to walk to school. And I was just going to give you some examples of some of the interventions that we've done in locations around Scotland, which encourage children to walk more because it makes them more features on the journey to school. So this is it's called the Bug Wall, and it's a staircase in Kirkcaldy in Fife, and with the local an artist and the local children, we designed tiles that were insect designs, and we also introduced some colour into the wall. Also in Kirkcaldy, and with the same artist, she designed some mileposts which had animal features on them, and they also had a piece of poetry on the post itself. And we heard anecdotally that this was very popular with the children because, and also with the parents, because they could tell the children to stop at the goldfish or the goldfinch or whatever the animal was, and it encouraged them to be able to manage the children when they're walking and allow them some freedom on that journey. That's the goldfinch one. So essentially what we were hoping we might get from Edinburgh Apps was a method to predict and model where children will walk. So just a bit of background. So primary children generally are accompanied on their journey to school. They either walk with friends or with their parents, or they obviously get driven. Some of them get driven, but we would be hoping to encourage the children to use a more active mode. Secondary school pupils, in a very broad generalisation, are unaccompanied. They often do walk in groups, but they don't tend to always follow the designated route. So that's a challenge within this challenge. What we've got on the screen here is a map that we did with some children in Kirkcaldy. They got to draw their own house, and then we put all the houses together to create a map. And then on the right-hand side is another image which shows paths through public space, and that was taken that was made from a thermal image in Copenhagen. So they set up a thermal camera high above a public square, and then they used that to track paths taken. So the jargon is a desire line through public space. And you can often see desire lines where you live, where they haven't put a path in, but it's the shortest route, so there's a muddy path that people cut across grass through. That's a classic desire line. So some of the barriers that I determined is that safety on the walk to school is a highly subjective and down to perception. So it can vary with the environment, with the weather, with the light and darkness of at different points in the year. Children and adults don't always know the most accessible route to take to walk to school. And then also there is a tendency for people to overestimate the time it takes to walk to a destination. So people opt for the car because they think it's quicker, but with the traffic at that time in the morning or evening, it can be just as quick to use another mode. So in terms of opportunities, we thought that modelling the most accessible and quickest routes to walk to school, modelling the most accessible and quickest routes, especially for P7 children to walk to secondary school. So that's, as we were mentioning, you mentioned transitions. A key transition in the lives of children is their move up to secondary school, and it's usually a further distance away because the way the catchments work, and it can form a habit. So the habit that you form on your first day at secondary school can last, and so it would be really important to identify good routes for children travelling to their secondary school, and then maybe a way of encouraging children and young people to get off the bus and walk the final part of their journey. In rural areas, this is not so much a problem in Edinburgh, but in rural areas, children often get the bus to school, and it would be nice to have a neat way to get them to get off at several stops earlier and get some physical exercise into their day. This is an image of an underpass. I showed it to someone and they said it looked like a nightclub, but I've never been to a nightclub that good, but it's an underpass in North Lanarkshire, and basically there was a project it was on a key route to school, and the children didn't like using it because it was all dirty and dingy and dark and not very well lit, and so the council worked with a local artist and some of the children to design this much funkier reincarnation of the underpass. So the children actually painted the design on the walls, and the lighting was introduced, and it was a feature, and it transformed their journeys, and they used it, and it didn't get graffitied, which I was quite surprised about. It's still there. It was 5 years ago, and it's still there, and it's still working. I don't know if all the lights are working, but I just wanted to put that up as as an example of an intervention that could be a thought as part of this project. But the issues, obviously data protection is an important one about managing data about where children live and where they're travelling is sort of critical to that we have data protection in place for that. I've put assumptions. It's just a challenge and an issue because we're making assumptions about how people choose their routes within this. Human behaviour is by its nature sometimes unpredictable. And then I've also put safety as a perception creates its own issues within this. This was just a few sources of data that I put up. We've got census data. The GIS maps I have also on a memory stick some of the catchment data for schools in Edinburgh, which we can use. The travel tracker is it's a technique that has been introduced to some schools in Edinburgh, I believe, and basically the children go up to the whiteboard every morning and they log how they travel into the school, which mode they use, and then there's data available over time because they do it every day, so that would be quite useful. And then Hands Up Scotland survey. So every year, Sustrans, in collaboration with all the local authorities in Scotland, collects data on how children are normally travelling into school. And we've got that data going back 8 years. So again, that is quite a useful data source. And that was my final slide. I just wanted to hope that we can try and make Edinburgh a more walkable city for children who don't always have a voice. Thank you.